Work and we'll get started.
Oh,
What's
yo,
going on?
what's going on, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. What's the word? How you doing?
Not much, man. Appreciate you for taking the time out for this. We've been trying to get this for a minute. You've done so much in R&B, and we just want to celebrate everything.
All good, all good. What's going on, man?
Awesome. Not much. I mean, we got to get started because I've had a chance to interview Tim and Bob, and I know
My
you
guys.
knew them early on. So you got to tell me that story of how you ended up working with them in Dallas, Austin, and all that. Like Bob told me the story. It was crazy, but just take me through that moment.
Yeah, you know what? I've been on Tim and Bob from Detroit, man. They were working at this studio called Sound Suite. Um and I met them there, man. And man, them guys was making some music that was so freaking incredible. And we just
Yep.
started a friendship and we kept in contact. And so what happened was I was actually in it because they left Detroit and they went and signed with Dallas way before I did. And
Yep.
I was in Atlanta and I called them and they was like, yo, we finna come pick you up and bring you to the studio. You gotta play some tracks and stuff for Dallas. So I went over there and I sang a song really for Dallas. And my initial contract was to be an artist. And I was like, man, I don't want
Mm.
to be no artist. I want to be a producer. So I signed on as a producer with Rowdy in the Dark Ink Camp. Yep,
Wow.
Tim and Bob connected me with that.
Wow. I mean, just take me back to a young Mario Winans during that time. Like you already were musically inclined, you were super gifted, but just what was your mindset at that time?
When I signed with Dallas,
Yeah.
oh man, I was just eager. I was just ready, man. I was very hungry and very like just ready to like get into it and to just make hit records, man, and learn whatever I could learn and just absorb and soak it all in and just grind.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, like Adonis is one person I've spoken to, and the
That's
question
my
I
boy.
always ask, people is that, when they first get into the game and they see all these great talent, like who's the first one that makes them say like, I got to get to that level? And Adonis said you were that guy that like told him like that showed him that you got to get to a certain level. Like who was that for you that like when you got into the game where you were like, I got to get to that level? Like that guy is the level right there.
Well, man, when I first started producing, when I was like 14, 15, that guy for me was Teddy Riley, man. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And I wasn't even really thinking like I got to get to that level. I was just like, man, I want to make music that makes people feel the way his music makes me feel. You know what I'm saying? And so, but then once I signed with Dallas, just seeing how Tim and Bob was working and Dallas was working and all of the other guys, Arnold Hennings and all of the different people that was on the squad, it was very, very inspiring to me, man. So I definitely wanted to to grow and get to the next level. And then once I got to Bad Boy, seeing my brother Stevie J and D Dot and all those guys and the way they was doing
yeah.
it, I was just like, yo. So it just made me more hungrier and more hungrier. You know what I'm saying? And so I just started going hard. All I did was just stay in the studio, lock myself in the room, and just create, create, create. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And we got to go to your debut here, Story of My Heart. Mario, I don't know if you know this, but there's a group of people online that like love that album. Like they talk about that album every day. It's a classic to them. Like what do you remember about that album? Because I feel like that didn't get the attention it deserves, but like diehard R&B fans know about that album.
Man, I love that album, man. It's one of my favorite bodies of work that I did. And it was in the transition when Andre Harrell had just left Motown. Rest in peace, Andre Harrell. And for that album, that was just something that I just poured my heart into. I wasn't really thinking about it too much. I just went in the studio, man. My writing partner at the time, Kenny Hickson, and my other music partner, Paul Allen. And we just went daily, day after day after day, man, just creating records, man.
Yeah. That record, My Sweetheart, that's one of my favorites.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually did that record in Atlanta in Silent Sound Studios, Daryl Simmons Studio.
Wow, amazing record. So let's fast forward here. Your time with Bad Boy Hitman, one of the best R&B production groups of all time, and individually, you guys just on your own monsters. Like, just take me back to who was in that camp at that time, and what did you love about their production? I see Stevie J in here, and he can play
Stevie,
every
what's up,
instrument.
baby? Yeah, I mean, man,
So
I'll be honest with you. I mean, it was a group of all stars, man. You got Stevie, D Dot, Ron Lawrence, Nasheem, Chucky Thompson, J Dub, Prestige, uh, um, Young Lord. I mean, of course, Puff. I mean, it was like a cast of producers, man, that was just so freaking awesome. And you know, and not just producers, but musicians and real creative people. And Carlos Brody, you know what I'm saying? And so it was just like a crew that was so dope, bro, that I was just like, yo, this is where I need to be. And they were already doing like when I jumped on board, Puff had just put No Way out, and so
Mm,
they were doing like a bunch of different performances and stuff like that. And Puff, nobody really knew I played the drums. So Stevie knew.
right.
So when I got to the rehearsal, I never forget this. He was like, yo, you play the drums? He was like, okay, good. The dude on the drums, he gonna play percussion now. So you gonna play the drums. And then, so then I jumped on the drums. And then once Puff saw that, he was like, oh, you playing the drums on everything. So it just really,
Wow.
it just really took it to another level, man.
I mean, I always hear stories about Puff pushing producers and making them better, but how did you guys as a collective make each other better? Was it competitive amongst you guys?
You know what? We was always competitive amongst everybody else. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So when we came to the studio, it was always open for any of us to jump on anybody else's tracks to do whatever we can do to enhance it. You know what I'm saying? It was no inner competition. We just wanted to demolish any and everybody that wasn't a part of our crew. You know what I'm saying? So that was our approach. You know what I mean?
Wow. And then,
Yeah.
in 1998, I don't know if people noticed this, but 112 second album, Faith Evans second album, and Total second album, they come out 1 week right after one another. Like, just take me back to that moment because that's insane if you think about it now.
Which moment is that again? I'm sorry.
Total, 112, and Faith, those
Oh
albums
yeah,
came out
man.
1 week
You
after
know,
one another.
we was just like it was just every day. So it was 3 rooms in Daddy's house, and you know we would just be in there making music all day, every day. So the artists would just go from room to room and picking tracks, and the writers would be there, and so it was like an assembly line. So you know that's just all we did, man, and we just made sure that we gave them the best records that we could, and gave them some hit records, man. And so it was really dope to just have such a synergy and energy of like all the dope artists, all the dope producers. It was really, really, really great times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, when you look back at that era now, do you guys recognize all the work that you guys have done and the impact that you guys made? Because, like, there's a generation of music fans that love that sound, love the era. Like, do you recognize that?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that, man. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful for that, man. And I think, you know, it was an era that still is continuing. You know, those records still play on the radio, and that's what lets me know that you know, I actually was having a conversation with Stevie the other day because you know we have a duty to make sure we continue to put out music that has a certain level of longevity to it. You know what I'm saying? And I think
Yeah.
we have that responsibility, and that's where my focus is for the future. You know what I'm saying? Like I recognize what we were able to do in the past, but where my mindset is at is what's happening with the future of music because we have a duty as those who have carried music and made an impact like that to make another impact. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's really time for change in this game. And so that's what we're getting ready to do.
That's amazing. And true or false, you're singing backgrounds on the Tamia record Into You.
Yeah, yeah,
That's you in the background, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Amazing
Actually,
record.
I sang the reference for her, and then we just kept my backgrounds on it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Shout out to
amazing.
Tamia too.
Yep, absolutely. And you did another record on that album too, so I just want to
Yeah, I
highlight
did
that.
2 records.
Great
Matter of
record.
fact, I did a record on Tamia's album called um, Never Gonna Let You Go, and then I did a record called Rain on Me. And actually, Quincy Jones
Yep.
called me because I used to
Wow.
sample from Quincy Jones, and he called me and told me he wanted to finish the record with me, and I was like, "Yo!" So he came to the studio in LA. Was at Westlake, man, and Greg Fillingangs and all of those legendary people was in the session with us, man, and he stayed in that studio with me till like 6:30 in the morning. Yup.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
man.
let's fast forward here. I Need a Girl Part 1 and Part 2. Adonis told me this story, and it's like insane. Like, you made those two beats, those two songs in the same studio session because
Yeah.
Puff wanted to
Thank
be
you,
on
man.
Part 1. He took that one, and you went right ahead and made Part 2, and you have two classics under your belt in one day. Like, just take me back to that moment.
Well, Puff had called me and he was like, "Yo, man, I need hit. Like I need that next thing." And so what I did was I got off the phone and I rented because I'm a big fan of renting, you know, and a lot of different keyboards and stuff like that. I always surrounded myself with instruments, so I rented about 17 keyboards, dating all the way back to some of them keyboards was from the 1960s. And I just, because I wanted to craft a sound that no one really heard. And I made 5 tracks. The first one was I Need a Girl Part 1. The fifth one was I Need a Girl Part 2. And I'm gonna tell
Wow.
you a funny story about that. So he picked part 1, and so Usher was in the studio, and part 2 was just open. So I told him, I said, man, I'm gonna keep part 2 for myself. So I Need to Go part 2 was originally called Pretty Woman. Was gonna be a Mario Winans record. And
Mm.
then when I finished it, Puff heard it and was like, yo, man, I'm loving both of them records. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's kind of bopping crazy to that record too. I said, I'll tell you what, keep both. Let's put both of them out, but you got to keep me on the second one, and that's how I had that verse on part 2.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to highlight another song here. I really wanted to highlight the record "Don't Cry" that you did for Faith, but "I Love You" was another one you did. Just talk about your body of work on that album because you did some great work on that one.
Say that again. Which Faith album?
Faithfully, the one with "I
Oh
Love You" and
yeah,
"Don't
man.
Cry," "Do
Yeah,
Your
man. I had a
Time."
great time working with Faith, man. We did about, I think, 6 or 7 records on that album.
Yeah, I mean, just take me back to that album. Like, what do you remember about making that stuff?
Oh man, it was just a great time because I had always wanted to work with Faith, man. The records that I had heard before I got with Bad Boy that they were doing on her, man, the Chucky records and all the crew, I just was very, very eager to work with her. And so once I got that opportunity, man, I just put the pedal to the metal and I was just creating as many records for her as I possibly could. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
that's
then after
amazing.
that, um, we just continued to work relationship. You know what I'm saying? Even when she wasn't that Bad Boy, I still did some records on Faith. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward here. Your second album, Hurt No More, comes out. I remember this album because I think I was like 13 at the time when I Don't Wanna came out. I Don't Wanna Know. I don't. We're aging ourselves here, but just I remember that album and just you put that whole thing together. And even though I Don't Wanna Know was the biggest record, I felt like Never really was. Just how you flipped that sample and just how you wrote on that record. Like, just take me back to that song, but also the whole album. Like, just what was your mind frame? Because that was a really sad album too. A lot of sad records there.
Yeah, you know, I was an emotional guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, so I kind of, that's how I kind of got my emotions out. I kind of wrote about it a lot. A lot of people be like, "Oh man, you always sad." And I'm like, "Look, man, that's just, hey, man, I put it out on paper. You understand what I'm saying?" But um, yeah, man, I don't want to know. I had actually took all my equipment from Daddy's house. I needed a break, so I went to the studio. Man, it's a real small studio. I think it was called Planet to Planet, and I just started creating, man. And I had wanted to I wanted to use this Enya sample because years ago, before I even signed to Bad Boy, I heard it at the end of this movie called Sleepwalkers, I think. And
Okay.
the Fugees beat me to it, and but no one had ever sang on it. So I had just put it together with this EPMD beat, Your Customer beat, and I just went in the vocal booth, man. And my man Michael Jones, he goes by the name of Low. He helped me write that record, man, and then that's how that came about.
Yeah, that album, man, just that album just had so many great songs on there. So I just
Thank
gotta
you,
give
man.
you
I
props for
appreciate
that.
that.
Like, that was a record that I grew up loving.
I appreciate that, man. And never really was Madonna. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of Madonna's, and you know, the Papa Don't Preach record. I was just listening to that record, and the
Yeah.
intro with them strings, the chords and the strings really touched me in a way, and I just wanted to flip it, and that's how that was born.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about a lot of your work is none of it ever really sounds the same as one another. You're so versatile as a producer.
Thank you,
Like,
man.
what is your approach with that?
You know, I just like to be growing up, man. I listened to a lot of different people, man. Like I listened to Peter Cetera, I listened to Sting, I listened to Chicago, I listened to Teddy
Mm,
Riley, Bobby Brown, Quincy Jones, you know what I'm saying, Bruce Hornsby. So the makeup of my subconscious and like what I love is music, it was always things that gave me this feeling in my stomach. So that's what kind of made me just produce for what I feel. And also I'm a very much of a sound freak. So I collect sounds. Like I have terabytes after terabytes of sounds. So anytime I go in the studio, I always like load up a different batch of sounds and pull from different things that makes me feel a certain kind of way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we gotta highlight another record here. You pulled from Prince here, the Keisha Cole record with Diddy last night. Like, just take me back to that song.
You said I pulled from who?
Prince? Was that Prince?
Nah, I played all of
That
that
wasn't Prince.
myself. Yeah. You know what's funny?
Wow.
Rest in peace. I'm a huge fan of Prince, man. And then when we did those records, they asked his people actually called us and was like, yo, you know, y'all gotta take care of us for that sample. So we sent them the whole session in the files, and they hit us back and was like, yo, y'all really didn't sample that. You know what I'm saying? And no, because you know what it is. There's just certain drum machines that they used back in the day, the Revolution. I'm not going to even call it drum machines, but I had all of those sounds. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I just created that from scratch. But it's no sampling last night at all.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
such an amazing song, huge hit. And then we fast forward a little bit here, 2010, and I feel like R&B at this point, it's not as popular as it once was. But here you come with a huge record, Can't Be Friends for Trey. I mean, just take me back to that production because that beat is crazy.
I'm gonna tell you a story. So every now and then, man, like I would take one of my drum machines and put it on the side of my bed and just sample all day, all night. Anytime it's by myself, I wake up in the morning if I hear anything. And so I was watching this movie called Babel, right, with Brad Pitt. And it was a DVD actually. And you know how you fall asleep and the DVD goes back to the menu screen, right? And so it
Yeah.
was playing this piece, and it wasn't the actual piece that I took from Ryuichi Yakamoto, but it was playing this piece. And once I heard that piece, I went and downloaded the original picture score from the movie,
Mm,
and that's when I found this other piece by Ryuichi. And I just threw it in the drum machine, and then I think about a month later, I went to the studio and I cooked that record up.
amazing.
And my man
And
Michael
then
Jones wrote that record.
that's a great song,
Thank you,
classic right
man.
there.
Thank you.
And then another record you wrote here. I want to touch on this one, the record well, on the Last Train of Paris, Yesterday with Chris Brown.
Yes.
Like you got to take me through the production of that song. That sounds like nothing I've ever heard before. It's insane.
You know what, man? I did that in my home studio, man. I was just in my crib one day, just vibing, writing some records, and that sound, the main sound that you hear in that, man, it was just something that I was just playing over and over and over, and I just put the drums to it, and I sent it to Puff, and he really loved it, man. And then we, got some writers to write on it, and yesterday was born.
Wow, amazing. And I mean, I can't forget about the Brandy record you did. Like, what was that sample? Because that was a crazy
You know what's
beat.
funny? Wish Your Love Away, the sample in Wish Your Love Away is the same guy, Ryuichi Sakamoto, as Can't Be Friends. Because once I
Oh,
once I
wow.
found that one piece, I started jacking him all the way across the board. Yeah. Shout out to
Yeah,
Ryuichi. And
yeah,
I
because
know he wasn't mad because he got some big checks.
right. Yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
like when you create these beats, like, do you take into consideration how you're going to be able to write over these beats? Like, because when I listen to that song, just it's such a beautiful composition by itself. Like, I don't know how you write to that afterwards.
Well, it's this kid named which one? The Brandy records. This kid named TC wrote that record.
PC, yep,
And
yep.
so you really just have to know what writers to send certain beats to. You can't just send it to anybody. So that's another part of being a producer is to really understand if you're gonna write it yourself or to know and have your go-to writers that can really bring the song to the next level. You understand what I'm
Mm.
saying? So the production is not just making the beat. And people get that confused, man. You got to see it all the way through, and then after they write it, you got to put the trinkets on it. You got to make sure the mix is right. It ain't just about making the beat. That ain't what a producer is.
Hmm. I'm just
You know?
reading the comments here. Someone wanted me to talk about Through the Pain. Someone wanted me to talk about the Brandy record. Thought You Said. Some great
Oh my
production you
God,
did
yeah.
there.
So the Press Play album, yeah. Thought You Said, man, was something, man, that I was just in a vibe, and you know, I listen to and I study different genres of music. Like I study techno, I study drum and bass, I study all types
Hmm.
of different music. So something that beat that you heard how it was going and thought you said was it has that kind of drum and bass type of feel, and to
Yeah.
connect it to where people can understand it is why I played the chords that will make them feel a kind of way. So the drum beat wouldn't be distracting to them; it would be more soothing than anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how that
And
came.
Mario, I gotta
That's
call
how
I
that
gotta
came
call
together.
you out on this one. I did an interview with you back in 2012, and you
Mm.
were talking about your new album, My Purpose. It's 2020 now. Where is my purpose?
It's on my drive. You know what I'm saying? But I done
Yeah.
made about 3 albums, man, since then. But I'm definitely
Wow.
getting ready to put out something, man, because I'm constantly writing records. You know, I'm always writing songs, and I know it's time. You know, I had just took some time off to work on my inner self, but I have a lot to
Yeah.
talk about. I have a lot of new understandings. I have a lot of new perspective on life and love and different things that I can talk about and really inspire some people and inspire as many people as possible. So it's time now. You know what I'm saying? So I have a lot of stuff coming very, very soon.
What makes you decide what to keep in the hard drive and what comes out? Because I know a lot of people, like music fans, they want to hear everything, whether it's a rough demo or just a chorus. But how do you decide what comes out and what doesn't?
Um, it's what makes me feel a certain way, man. You know,
Mm,
certain things just give me a feeling. And that, if that's one thing I can share with people, man, is don't lose the feeling. You know, if you're creating something that don't make you feel a certain type of way, it ain't gonna make too many people feel a certain type of way. It may for a moment, but I've never been one that to create music for the moment. I'm one to create music for as long as it can be for the longevity. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we've been blessed to have records that still play on the radio today.
yeah, it's amazing. And Mario, I mean, we're almost out of time here, but I see those plaques behind you right now. Just show me a little bit of those plaques. What's
Yeah,
happening
it's
there
just a few of them, man. Just a few of them, man. Um, you got, let me see, you
at
got
the Mary?
American
Yep.
Gangster, you got Destiny's Child, Bad Boys 2, you got my album, you got P. Diddy Reinvented the Remix, Mary J. Blige, you got Jennifer Lopez over here. Yeah, that's a 10 million
Wow.
boy right there. You got the Godzilla soundtrack, Rick Ross, Shine, Biggie. Yeah, man. I just got a few of them up, but for the most part, when I get some plaques and stuff, man, I kind of like send them to my mom, and you know what I'm saying.
Mm,
But, you know, I just up for ambience, man. And honestly, when I look at these plaques, I don't look at it for the sake of, oh, this is what I did. I look at it and I look at the numbers and I
mm,
realize how many people I was able to touch. So it lets me
yep.
stay focused and remind me that I have a responsibility and a purpose for those people to make sure I keep giving them great music.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, so fast forward to today, you know, you talked about the new music that you're putting out, but I know you did a lot with The Weeknd on his
Mm-hmm.
album as well. I
Yeah.
mean, that was such a surprise to us. I mean, you're a legend, but you know, for you to work with a younger generation, a generation that's probably maybe two generations away from, you know, your generation, like just take me to that, like working with The Weeknd and how that all came together.
I'm a big fan of the Weekends, and actually, you know what? The Belly, who's a good friend of mine, this plaque right here is from a record I did with Belly, way
Mm,
back in 2006, 2007, called Riding. So I had
I
a
remember that. Yep.
relationship with Sal and Belly and those
Yep.
guys for years, and I've always wanted to work with the Weekend. And so Sal called me and said, you know, the Weekend wanted to holler at you because he just felt it was time for you guys to get in the studio and do some vibes. And so when I went in the studio, they had the skeleton of this record that I was freaking incredible. So we just
Mhm.
vibed, and I, went in and did my thing, and ended up being the after hours, man.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Mario, how do you kind of approach making music in 2020? Because like, you know, I grew up listening to a lot of 90s and 2000s R&B, so I like my songs 4 minutes long. I like it with a bridge. I like harmonies. I like
yeah,
solid songwriting.
yeah.
A lot of that is kind of being stripped away because people factor in streaming. You got to get the numbers. Like, how do you kind of approach music making nowadays?
Man, I approach music thinking about the people, man. Whenever I'm writing songs, I'm writing for the world. I'm not focusing on the streaming. I'm not focusing on none of that because when you focus on the people, you're gonna impact the people.
That's powerful.
You know?
And then last question for you, just to bring it back to Puff, because I think this is a very important lesson here with the I Need a Girl part one and part two. He takes part one, you go ahead and you make part two. Like you could have easily fought back and been like, no, part one is mine. Like what is that like? Because I'm sure Puff has done that with a lot of records. Like how do you like be okay with letting go of one record and just going on to another? Like
Because
is there an
man,
art to that?
as a family, we always saw the bigger picture. It was never about making individual decisions. You know, we
Yeah.
always saw the bigger picture, and I saw that very clear.
Mm,
And it was right because it won, and those records still play today. So it's always
yeah.
about the bigger picture. Sometimes, man, when you put too much of yourself into something, man, you can lose the bigger picture. And I don't like to do that. So I'm always about the bigger picture. I'm always about something outside of myself, and always about others and the teamwork. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I'm still here today.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful lesson for a lot of these younger artists and producers out there. that it's all about the team. It's not about one person. It's about the team. So
Yeah,
I got
man.
to give you props for that, Mario.
Thank you, brother. I
So
appreciate that, man.
absolutely. So we're out of time here. I just want to give you a shout out and thank you again for your contributions to R&B, to
Absolutely,
hip
man.
hop,
It
and
was a
all
long
you've done.
time coming, man. A long time coming.
Uh,
Anytime you need me, I'm here, man.
Absolutely. So we'll get you again soon. And Stevie J's in the chat right now. He's been talking. We'll
Yeah,
get
you
him
got man.
soon
Listen, you got
too.
to get that man on there, man. He was there before me. Get him on there,
Yep,
brother. That man got
we
hit.
will. So Stevie, we'll figure this out with Mario.
And
Best of
Stevie
luck with
play
everything.
about
Keep up.
35 instruments too. Don't let him fool you.
Amazing. But Mario, man, keep us posted on everything. You know you've got our support, and just keep it going, man. We want to hear the new music. I want to hear that new album soon.
Thank you, man. You will. And I'm fostering some new companies and labels too, man. Company coming out of Miami called Golden City Entertainment. Look out for them. It's my brother Bam's company. Very, very talented artists, young kids, quality music with longevity, man. That's something that's coming as well. You know what I'm saying? And some other stuff that I'm doing, man. But make sure you look out for that. Golden City Entertainment.
Absolutely. That's amazing. All
Yup.
right, Mario, best of luck with everything, and we'll talk soon.
Yup. The artist is Jed and Brent Love. Keep that in mind, man. They coming.
All right, man. You take care. Be safe
All
out
right,
there.
bro. God bless you. Stay safe, man.
Yep. Take care. All right. That was Mario Winans. Great interview. Shouts to Mario. Stevie Jake, you're still here. Hit us up. We got to get you next. Anyways, you guys have a good night.